Hi, so here I'm going to introduce data types to you, and yeah, and here we go. So one of the things about Python, which we're comparing obviously, is that you could do this. You could do age equals 18 and then age equals Steve. So age is a variable and the data type of age can change. This is one of the reasons I don't like Python. I think this is dangerous. It also allows for things like this to be done, mistakes like that, where you type in a spelling error that looks similar. I meant to do that. But there you go, but that would work in Python. I wouldn't be adding 10 to age. I'd be setting age to, without uppercase, to this. And I don't like this kind of like hoping everything works kind of thing. In C# and most modern languages, you have to declare the data type before you type it in. So you type like int for integer. Okay. Now you might say that seems a bit annoying and various other things, but it's also got to understand is I know what integer is. Okay. So by default, integer is a system.int32. So I can click on that and I can see that's the minimum value. That's the maximum value. And I can very understand that it takes 32 bits and know exactly what data is going into that. I could, for example, have chosen to use a byte, which is another data type that only has is 8 bits, and that will obviously have a min value of 0 and a max value of 255, probably quite fine for an age. I can also even be very specific and type system.int16 and have a 16-bit integer called age. Okay, and that will give me those minimum maximum values. Now these are all signed, and by that I mean is that you can add negative numbers. This is byte wasn't, byte's unsigned by default. There is a uint, I think it's lowercase u, might be capital U. There we go. And so uint, for example, has no negative numbers. Great for an age, that would be perfect, and only taking 2 bytes. Wow. So whilst you very often don't need to worry about that in programming, sometimes you do. And I like the fact that you can see quite clearly what data type this is. Okay, and various other things. You will make note that it is in green underline. It's in green underline because I'm not using it. If I print it, and this is a IDE thing, not a C# thing. It would no doubt do that in a Python program. If I write age, you'll see the underline goes. So as soon as I use it, the green underline goes. So that's another good reason. Visual Studio, very useful, telling us things. If I just comment that out with double slash, which is comments in C#, you can also do /* and then until you do // that's like the start of a comment. Sometimes people will put stars at the start of each word. I don't always bother, but that's like it's doing you for you. I mean, it does look nice, I suppose. I never really write big chunks of comments, really. I think they're overrated. Anyway, yeah. But anything you write between the / is commented, so it depends how you lay it out. So if I, for example, double age. Now, it's going to get rid of the green underline because I have used age. However, it's going to put a blue, light blue version here to say that unnecessary assignment of a value to age. It's saying, well, you're doing something with it, but does that really do anything? Okay. Now, it's possible that Visual Studio doesn't understand that something else is going to use that later. And so that's why it doesn't give you an underline or anything like that. And it's a little bit confused. If I go to use it, with console.write, I'm going to do write this time, so no write line. So that will just write without doing a new line. Then yeah, so you've got some, it doesn't have like that weird blue anymore, and it's fine. So notice how I did age equals age times 2. I can actually just do this, age times equals 2. That is the same as saying age equals age times 2, and you can do that with all of the symbols. Okay, so for example, instead of going age equals age plus 10, I can go age plus equals 10. So you put the symbol followed by equals, you can do divide equals, / equals, and you could do minus equals, and it'll be the same as writing whatever it is there. So divide age by 2, I could do age / equals 2. And you will see that used commonly in examples to divide something by 2. So yeah, so you need to understand it. It is in Python, and I do teach it, but not to everyone. Probably the people watching this I did, so that's good. Right, that's integers covered. Okay, now you've got the two steps. We'll leave float till the end because it's a little bit more interesting. And although Python had this, we just didn't go into it. So we're going to go with the two main text ones of string and char. Okay. So notice I'm setting Martin to name to Martin and hit key to P. There you go. So you use double quotes for a string, single quotes for apostrophes really for a character, which is a single character, which is in UTF-16. So UTF-16 is Unicode transformation format. Basically a 16-bit like Unicode, which obviously you should know is similar to ASCII. So anyway, so it's 16-bit. Okay, and then obviously a string is just a normal string representation, probably of characters of UTF-16 yet. So that's got loads of chars, essentially chars in them, which basically make up a string. So I can set those like that. So that's the string ones, and obviously I can do name equal plus equals hit key perfectly fine, because it will convert from a char to a string. I can do like, you know, plus hello plus hit key, and it will add, you know, strings together, and so on and so forth. Okay, if however I add a number to a string, what it will do is it will just add the number to the string as if it was a string. Now you might think, but in Python that will give an error. But basically the difference in Python, I'll explain why it's different in Python. So let's do name and then run it. Why does it not give an error, and why does it work here? You'd think, you know, surely it should be more explicit. Implicit is not right. But here, the reason is we know what data type we want. The difference with Python is, what does it produce at the end? Because the variables can change data types. You know, do you want a number? Do you want, like, let's say we had like string sage as like 18, and we've got age as 10, and we add them together to something. The thing is, let's add them together. So age equals plus equals age. Right, so it's going to add 18 to it. Now the thing is, you might say, well, in Python you're trying to think, well, do we want to do math, or do we want to do string conversion? Well, here we know we want to do string conversion, because age can only be a string. So there is no way it can end up being anything but a string, because the data type for age is a string, and it always will be. Right, so that's that. So yeah, so that is the basic ones of integer and string and char. Now we'll do Boolean. I'm not going to do arrays in this video. So you've got Boolean, true or false. You can set it like that. And then you can also do this, paused equals not paused, and that will flip pause. So if I printed pause out before, it would be false, and here it would be true, because pause is now flipped. That's something useful. That means not. So there is also possible in Python, but we didn't go through it too much. So yeah, there you go. That's Boolean, true or false. There are lots more different ones, but the important ones to go for are float, double. I think is important. These are the decimal numbers. Now, let's just we'll do health. We'll do F health and D health. So health's going to be a float, and you know, so now the thing is, when you write floats, I don't know, I put 3.14. Let's do 127.8. Right, F. Now with floats, which is what we've been using before, you have to put F at the end. With double, you don't. Now you might think, why? Now double is more precise. I think, I'm not 100% sure, I think, I could Google it. I think float gives us, I think 7 levels of decimal places, and double is 15. It doesn't tell you here, it tells you in sort of quite a lot of, very hard to work out, epsilon. I'm not quite sure what that means. I'm sure the mathematicians will know more than me. And double doesn't tell you. I mean, I probably could just Google it, really. C# float number decimal places. It's going to give me loads of like how to convert things. But anyway, the point is that they have a different number of decimal places. It says between 6 and 9 for some odd reason, and 15 to 17. And there is one also called decimal, which I've heard of before, which is like really high accuracy of like 28 to 29. The reality is this takes a lot slower than this. Okay, so float is a lot quicker than held, and unless you need a lot of high precision, I mean, I'm talking a lot of high precision, lots of decimal numbers, then you're perfectly fine with a float. but they do end in F. So you do like 45.65 F, like that. Okay, that's all you really need to know about floats. Really, all the same math works the same as integers. You can add an integer to a float, but if I was going to do like plus 10.2, that would give me an error because I need to put F on the end of it like that. But if I don't have any decimal places, I can do that because then it will convert from an integer to a float. But either way, you can get away with putting the F. If it's a float, put F at the end. I'll just get rid of the F at the start of that to make it look more normal. But yeah, there you go. So even if I set it to 0, I should really do 0F like that. But there you go, and then write it out as possible.